I'm here to tell you a story about home, which surprisingly I just realized that it's spelled very similar to hope, which makes a lot of sense. Before I want to give you the facts that are most unbelievable about my story. And it's because when I was 20, I was married and I had left my country of origin, Venezuela, and I had moved to Boston to go to school. And only a few months later, I followed my husband to go to Prague, where he was going to start a summer internship. I didn't know much about Prague, other than they have something called Blacklight Theater that sounds really cool, and that Don Giovanni was written there. If you are Mozart fans, you know what that means. That's all that I knew. But I had that sense of rooting for leaving my country that even if it was just for a summer, a few months, I needed to make it feel like home. So I packed maybe 6 bags, luggages, and I had a portable easel, a portfolio, and my camera. I had like 8 or 10 books that I brought with me, which was kind of ridiculous now that I think about it. And we went from the airport straight to my husband's office, and his boss welcomed us with car keys. And for broke students, that was like a very big treat for us. And they gave him this white Volkswagen wagon that saved our lives the first weekend. It was life-saving the first weekend that we were there, because we were actually living outside of Prague, about 23 miles from Prague, in a small town, very small town called Czelakowice. So Saturday, our first day, we drove to the city. We fell in love with it. The Charles Bridge, if you have been there, the river, the castle, the astronomical clock, the old town square. It was so beautiful. We were so happy. But on Monday, my husband went to work, and I was so ready to start my own adventure. So I walked to the train station, got myself a round trip ticket to Prague, got into the city, and then I was with my camera, following strangers in a non-stalky way. Whenever I saw them on the tram, I would travel with them, see what kind of alley they would get me. I would sit down at the cafe, eating my cucumber sandwiches, and seeing peacocks flying in the gardens, and sketching and writing. It felt like a fairy tale. I was so happy, until I had to get back home. So I arrived to the train station, and I realized that I didn't know how to arrive to Czelakowice. There were no maps. Nobody spoke English. It was, in the 90s. Nobody really spoke English. And so I started asking everybody at the ticket station, people who were just walking by, it's like, please, I need to get to Czelakowice. Nobody could help me. So after maybe an hour, I was so desperate, I decided to get the payphone and call my husband at work. And he's like, I'm lost! I was crying like a baby, and he's like, what do you want me to do? I'm at work. You solve it. So I was so desperate, I got into track number 5. It was empty. I saw a seat, a bench, sat down, and started crying like a little baby. I felt so lonely and so lost, when suddenly a train arrived, and a few commuters came out of the train, and then I see a group of gypsies, maybe 50 of them. I've never seen them. And I remember the guys were wearing these white embroidered shirts, the girls have these colorful fabrics, the patriarch of the family had that golden tooth that I found, I don't know, it really scared me. I couldn't see anything other than that tooth. And they surrounded me, and all the kids were touching me and touching my camera and touching my stuff, and I couldn't see anything besides them. I was so scared, and they started talking, the patriarch started talking to me in Italian. He's like, signorina, signorina, but I couldn't understand him, he couldn't understand me, they were lost, I was lost. It was a lost case. So finally they leave me alone, and I'm there crying. Suddenly this young woman comes, and she was one of the ones that I have actually asked before, how could I get to Czelakowice? And she sees me there crying. And then she recognized me, and then she starts hearing something on the speaker. And then she looks at me and she's like, and I run. So I ran to track number 3 like my life depended on it. And there was a train with the doors open. I got in. I had no clue where it was going to take me, but I was going to trust this lady that it was going to take me back home. So So the whole trip, I was so nervous, and then we left the city. And I started recognizing the fields that were between Czechoslovakia and Prague. These fields that my husband and I always joke that if an UFO kidnapped you there, nobody would ever find out. Because there were no, stores, there were no towns in between. So I started recognizing it, and I see, I think I'm going, I'm in the right path here. And then I see a train station, and it says Czechoslovakia. I saw my husband in the white Volkswagen wagon waiting for me, and I felt like, wow, I made it home. So I got out of that train, and I started sobbing like a little girl, and I realized that home really is a place that you always anticipate going back to, and sometimes you don't even know how to get there, but you need to trust that the universe will always find your way back.